Let us begin assembly of the prop, starting with the main body. And here it is. I recommend you print it in one piece, but if you don't have a printer sufficiently large enough, cutting it straight in the middle should suffice. The recommended orientation of 3D printing it is with it being upside down. This is the top of the prop. This should be on the print bed. This being the first layer, Z-axis going in this direction. Supports might be necessary for this internal cavity which houses much of the internal mechanism. Let us add to it the front-facing folding vertical grip. It consists of two pieces. Here we have the grip itself and the locking mechanism that slides inside it, like so. And this locks it in its folded and open positions. To make this mechanism work, you need an elastic band. To place it inside, I recommend using a paper clip to guide the elastic band through the grip itself, and I'll show you how that's done. What you do is you take the elastic band and you feed it through these two holes here on the bottom. You can see there's a hole on either side of the lock. And what you do is you feed the elastic band through both of those. Once you have fed the two ends of the elastic band through those two openings down there, you put both ends onto a paper clip. Once you've done that, once you have both ends on a paper clip, you stretch the elastic band to the top, making sure that it feeds itself into these cutouts here on either side. And then what you do is you place the lock itself into the grip until it slides all the way in. And now, with both ends of that elastic band on this paper clip, you will hook the two ends onto this hook here on the grip and this hook here on the front of the grip as well. And here we go. I take one of them off and I hook it, one end off, and I hook it around there on that hook on the grip. And I do the same thing on the other side. Here, take the paper clip, and then there you go. You have the other end of the elastic band. You hook that around the hook there, remove the paper clip, and there you have it. You have the locking mechanism. And then you press the locking mechanism onto the main body by opening up the two ends here and then twisting it a little bit. It should open up a little bit and then it should lock into place. There we go. Lovely, it clicked into place. And then you can adjust it by pulling the end, and then you can lock it in its folded position, pull on the end, unlock the mechanism, and it will lock into its open position. Now let's continue by adding some of the elements to the prop that need to be glued in place, such as the two barrels. Or you can use one barrel if you do wish to make this look like its real world counterpart. Push in. There we go. Those are the two barrels inserted. There's a couple more elements that need to be glued in place. One of those is the top rail, which should fit into this trench here at the top. There you go. So glue that in place. And then alternatively and optionally, you can also add mini red dot sight, which consists of two parts. You have the little shroud and as well as the main body, and the two parts should click into place like that. And on the bottom, there is a rectangular opening that should fit nicely onto one of these protrusions on the top rail, like that. And while it does remain in place on its own, I do recommend gluing it in place. And there you go, that should fit like that onto the top of the prop. I will glue these in place off camera. Let's go over how to assemble the internal mechanism for this prop. Here are the parts that make up the internal mechanism. And I'm going to show you how they fit together outside of the prop to make it easier to understand why assembly is the way it is. When designing these props, you have to prioritize one or two of the three, which is one is aesthetics, two is ease of 3D print, three is the ease of assembly. Here I did prioritize aesthetics a little bit more. So assembly is a little bit of faff. So I'll show you how these fit together outside the prop before I place them inside this internal cavity in the main body of the prop. So you have the bolt itself, the bolt connector, and the internal brace. The internal brace has these wings here that flex a little bit, which facilitates it being placed inside the main body. And it has these two tabs here on either side that will click into place, and it will hold one end of the elastic band in place, with the other end being wrapped around this connector. As for this connector and the bolt, on the back of the bolt, there is a square opening. At the tip of the connector, there is this little hook that will actually hook into place into the back of the bolt, and these two will move together when you pull on the connector, and this will remain stationary holding one end of the elastic band while the other end pulls the bolt and its connector back into place. To put these together, you have to take the bolt and place it into the cavity through the magazine well, with the other two pieces being inserted from the rear. Now, make sure you orient this piece correctly when placing it inside the internal cavity. This is the bottom, this is the prop, this is the correct orientation that it should be placed in. You can see the two tabs, and on the bottom here, there is this step down, this little bit of step down here, that faces downwards towards the bolt. So this would be the correct orientation, okay? So let's start placing the components inside. Take the bolt, make sure you orient it properly. See this bevel here? That bevel here at the edge is supposed to face upwards and forwards in respect to the main body. You insert this through the magazine well, like so. And you push it all the way in until it can move freely, and you can see it slides around freely. It does move around in ways we don't want it to. That's fine, that's what the internal brace is for. Now, let's take the elastic band, stretch it out between your two fingers, and then place like that. So you can see there's a little bit of an opening in you have three wings here, and the middle kind of protrusion has a little bit of a gap there into which the elastic band can be inserted. And you're supposed to wrap the elastic band around through that little gap there. With the other end of it, the other two ends actually, going onto the internal mechanism like this, is how they're meant to be inserted into the cavity. You can see once again the step down facing down towards the bolt, towards the bottom of the main body of the prop. So there you go, that's the orientation. With the bolt inside, we will insert the internal brace as well as the connector into the main body of the prop. Through the back of the main body, and we will push this all the way forward until we hear a click. That click indicates that those little tabs at the end of the connector plug into the back of the bolt. So there we go. You heard that click, and you can pull on the connector and the bolt moves with it. But as you can see, the bolt is a little bit displaced, which means the internal brace is not yet in its final resting position. Pull that back and look at the inside. And yes, the bolt connector is not in its correct orientation. It's a little bit deflected up. So I'm going to grab it with the tweezers and pull up on it and it looks like it's in its position. The bolt is not deflecting, and I should be able to pull this. And as you can see, it moves freely. Now, with the internal mechanism in its position, let's continue assembly of the prop by adding the following features to it: the pistol grip, the magazine locking mechanism, as well as the trigger, and as well as this shroud that goes over the back. To assemble these mechanisms, you need two springs from a pen, like this one. I have two here. One is required for the trigger, and the other one is required for the mechanism that locks the magazine in its place. Let's start with the trigger. Here you have the trigger itself, and you have one of the springs. Add this spring to the end of the trigger, as you can see, like that. And then insert the trigger into the trigger guard by pushing up and back, and it should lock in its final position. And then put the other end of the spring into this little opening here at the top. And you could cut the spring down if you feel like it's too long, but the trigger should move freely. Let's add to the main body of the prop this shroud. This shroud should go on first because it has openings for the pistol grip as well as the magazine well. So let's add that by sliding it from the back. And you can see this little opening there. That opening actually corresponds to two tabs on the end of the main body. You can see them there, and they click into place there just to make sure it's not just glue holding it in place, and that these props do to some extent lock into one another. Next, you should place the locking mechanism for the magazine into the top of the pistol grip, and then place the spring in its corresponding location, like that. And the other end of the spring will actually press up against the back of the trigger guard. when they are both inserted into the main body. So place the trigger into this little rectangular opening at the bottom of the main body, and then you will do the same thing with the pistol grip. It has two of these tabs here. One is shorter than the other, and they will slide into the bottom of the main body of the prop. The longer one is the left one, the shorter one is the right one. And the reason the right one is shorter is because on the right side of the prop, there's an ejection port, and that does not allow the tab to be any longer because it would interfere with that little port there. So you have the trigger, spring, and then you insert the trigger along with the pistol grip into its final position. And as you can see, it locks in place. You can glue this in place, and I recommend you do. And there we go, with the pistol grip and the trigger guard, as well as the magazine release in its place. I do recommend you glue these in place, but I recommend adding glue to those tabs I showed you earlier, so it actually connects to the main body of the prop, not just gluing it to the shroud. And there you go, you have your trigger, and then you have the ambidextrous magazine release. There, I will glue these in place off camera. Off camera, I glued the trigger guard and the pistol grip in its place. This here is the magazine. This square little indentation here actually is what locks onto that magazine release, and this is the base plate that you need to glue in place, which I will do off camera. The only mechanism that's left to assemble is the extending stock. So here we have the parts that make up the butt stock. You have the rails, two of them. You have the butt cap itself. This is an optional piece that covers up the elastic band that moves the locking mechanism. To add the locking mechanism to the prop, you need an elastic band, and you need to print this piece here, to which you need to add the elastic band like so. So you feed it down the middle like that, so you end up with two little ends here that you need to hook on these two hooks here at the back. There's one here, one there. And you place this into the back of the cavity, pull down, and then this elongated piece should extend a tiny bit below the rear shroud. And then you take the two ends of the elastic band and you hook it around those two hooks there. So one on this side and one on the other side of the rear shroud. And there you have it. This is the mechanism that allows the extending stock to be locked in 5 different positions. Here you have this piece here. This piece is decorative and is optional. What this does is it covers up this elastic band and cleans up the rear part of the prop. When printing this will actually fit very loosely into the back between the main body and the shroud. And to make sure it stays in its place, I have placed some electrical tape around these prongs here. And the reason why I did that, I still want to be able to remove this end piece here to get at this elastic band in the event that it breaks, and also get at the elastic band on the inside that works the bolt mechanism. So to place this, you pull the bolt back just a little bit and then place in, and then it should slide freely into its place. And there you go. There you go, it cleans up the end there. Now, let's assemble the extending stock itself. You have 2 rails. There is a left and right side to this. The end that is angled a little bit has to line up with the angle at the front of the prop here. So push the locking mechanism up a little bit to unlock it, and then push it all the way to the front. And then do the same thing on the other side. And there you have it. You have the 2 rails. They should not come out unless you push up on the mechanism that unlocks it and allows it to slide back. And then you have the cap itself, which simply goes on the back like that, and you can glue that in place. And with that, the prop is fully assembled. You have the folding vertical grip, moving trigger, release mechanism for the magazine, bolt mechanism, as well as the extending stock, which locks in 5 different positions. There you go. Thanks for watching.